Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping right into medical devices, specifically the global nebulizers market.
Yeah, we've got this 2025 report that gives a really interesting snapshot.
It really does. So let's unpack it. Where do things stand right now, according to the report?
Okay, so it kicks off estimating the global market at USD 1,252.6 million in 2025.
Right, so pretty significant size already.
Definitely.
Hmm.
But the really eye-catching part is the growth projection.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, it's projected to swell to USD 2088.67 million by 2033,
Wow, okay.
which works out to a compound annual growth rate, the CAGR,
Hmm.
of 6.60%.
6.6%. That's, pretty strong momentum for a medical device market.
It is, and a big reason cited for this climb, it's the growing number of older adults globally.
The geriatric population. Makes sense. More people needing respiratory therapies as they age.
Exactly. Nebulizers are, well, a crucial tool for managing those conditions.
So our plan today is basically to pull out the key insights from this report, maybe find some surprising details for our listeners.
Sounds good. Where should we start? Maybe the regional breakdown.
Yeah, let's do that. How does this global market look across different parts of the world?
Okay, well, North America is the heavyweight right now, holding the biggest slice, over 40% of the market.
Over 40%.
Their 2025 estimate is USD 463.46 million.
And the growth rate there.
Projected CGR is 5.1% through 2033. Steady growth.
And within North America, the U.S. is dominant, I assume.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The U.S. market is estimated at USD 365.67 million for 2025. Their growth is slightly lower, though, 4.9% CGR.
Interesting. And Canada and Mexico.
Canada's next, about USD 55.62 million, but with a higher CTR 5.9%.
Huh.
And Mexico's around USD 42.18 million, growing to 5.6%. So slight variations there.
So why is North America so far ahead right now? What are the reasons given?
Well, the report points to a few things. Higher rates of respiratory illnesses like asthma, COPD, that's a big factor.
Okay.
Plus a very developed healthcare system.
Yeah.
And the trend towards home healthcare is really taking hold there.
Treating patients at home more often.
Exactly. Add in the presence of major manufacturers and generally favorable insurance situations. It all contributes.
Right, that paints a clear picture. Okay, let's hop across the Atlantic. Europe.
Europe's also very significant, holding over 30% of the global share.
30%, okay. And the value?
Estimated at USD 363.25 million in 2025. Their projected growth is actually a bit higher than North America's, 5.7% CAGR.
Interesting. And within Europe, it must be quite diverse.
Oh, absolutely. You've got the UK, for example, estimated at USD 61.03 million, and they've got a strong 6.5% CAGR.
Higher growth again.
Yeah. Germany's a bit larger in market size, USD 71.92 million with a 5.9% CAGR. So still quite strong.
Okay. Who else stands out?
Let's see. France is around USD 33.42 million, 4.9% growth. Italy, USD 31.24 million, 5.1% growth.
Russia. You mentioned them earlier.
Right. Russia's got a decent market size, USD 56.3 million, but their growth is a bit more moderate, 4.7%.
It's fascinating how detailed this gets. Spain, Sweden.
Yeah, Spain's about USD 29.79 million, 4.8% CAGR. Sweden, smaller, USD 11.26 million, but growing faster at 5.8%.
Wow.
Then there's Denmark, USD 7.63 million, 5.5% growth. Switzerland, USD 5.45 million, 5.3%. Even Luxembourg is listed.
Luxembourg, clearly.
Yeah, USD 4.36 million, but with a 6.0% CAGR.
Huh. And the rest lumped together.
The rest of Europe is about USD 50.86 million, growing at 4.4%. So yeah, quite a mix across the continent.
So what's driving Europe's strong position overall? Similar reasons to North America.
Pretty similar, yeah. Rising respiratory issues, strong healthcare systems. But the report also mentions a focus on portable and, interestingly, eco-friendly devices in Europe.
Eco-friendly nebulizers. That's a new angle. Reflects broader trends, I guess.
Definitely. Okay, ready to pivot to Asia-Pacific.
Let's do it. What's the picture there?
APAC holds around 23% of the market currently, so the third largest region.
Oh, 23%. And the value?
About USD 300.62 million in 2025. But here's the kicker.
I sense something big.
The highest projected CAGR by far, a whopping 9.3%.
9.3%. Wow. Okay, that's where the really explosive growth is happening.
Exactly. This region is really one to watch. China's leading the pack there. USD 126.26 million market size, growing at 8.8%.
It's still very high.
Then Japan, USD 41.49 million, 7.8% growth. South Korea, USD 36.07 million, 8.4% growth.
Solid numbers all around. But you mentioned a standout earlier.
India, market size around USD 30.06 million, but the CAGR an incredible 11.2%.
11.2%. That's phenomenal growth in India. What does that signal?
It really suggests a rapid expansion, doesn't it? Maybe faster adoption, perhaps linked to rising incomes or healthcare access. Alongside the respiratory issues, it can really shift the global landscape.
Absolutely transformative potential. What about other countries in APAC?
Australia's mentioned USD 15.63 million, 8.63 million, 8.6% growth. Singapore, smaller, USD 6.01 million, but growing fast at 9.6%.
Still high growth everywhere, it seems.
Pretty much. Taiwan, USD 11.72 million, 9.1% growth. Southeast Asia as a whole, USD 19.84 million, growing to 10.1%.
10% for Southeast Asia, wow.
And the rest of APAC? About USD 13.53 million, also growing at 9.1%. The whole region is just booming in this sector.
So what's driving this massive expansion across Asia-Pacific?
The report highlights a few key things. Rising air pollution is a major unfortunate factor in many areas.
Right. Contributing to respiratory problems.
Exactly. There's also growing healthcare awareness generally, and a big demand for cost-effective solutions, which nebulizers can sometimes offer, especially for home management.
Makes sense. Okay, moving down the list. South America.
South America holds just over 5% of the global share. Estimated market size is USD 47.6 million in 2025.
And their growth, is it keeping pace?
Actually, quite strong growth, too. Projected CAGR of 7.3%. So a smaller market, but growing faster than North America or Europe overall.
Interesting. Who are the main players there?
Brazil leads, unsurprisingly. USD 20.37 million market, going at 7.9%.
Okay.
Then Argentina, about USD 8.00 million, but with a really high CAGR of 8.2%.
8.2%, nice.
Colombia is next, USD 4.24 million, 7.1% growth. Peru, USD 3.90 million, 7.5%. Chile, USD 3.43 million, 7.6%.
A lot of growth across the board there.
Yeah, and the rest of South America combined is USD 7.66 million, growing at 6.4%.
So what's the story behind this growth in South America?
Well, the report mentions a high prevalence of respiratory diseases there too. But also, importantly, improving access to healthcare and growing awareness about treatment options like nebulizers.
So potential is being unlocked as healthcare improves.
Seems like there's definitely room for expansion as infrastructure develops further.
Got it. Okay, 2 regions left. Middle East.
Middle East holds around 2% of the global share. Market size for 2025 is estimated at USD 50.1 million.
So slightly larger in current value than South America, even with a smaller global share.
That's right, yeah. And their growth is also strong, a CAGR of 7.9%.
Very strong. Which countries are leading there?
Saudi Arabia is the largest market, estimated at USD 17.64 million, with an 8.2% CAGR.
Okay.
UAE follows, USD 10.32 million, growing even faster at 8.4%. Then you have Turkey and Qatar, both around USD 4 million, with CAGRs of 8.5% and 7.4% respectively.
High growth again?
Yep. Egypt's about USD 3.01 million, 7.7% growth.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the Middle East combines for USD 11.12 million, growing at 7.1%.
What's driving the Middle East market? Similar factors?
Yes. Again, increasing respiratory disorders are key, but the report also points to improving healthcare infrastructure and generally rising healthcare spending in many Middle Eastern countries.
Got it. Okay. Last but not least, Africa.
Africa currently holds the smallest share, around 1%. The 2025 market size is estimated at USD 27.56 million.
And the growth outlook?
Still respectable, a CAGR of 6.9%, so growing steadily, albeit from a smaller base.
Which markets are mentioned specifically?
South Africa is the largest, USD 9.70 million, with a pretty strong 7.8% CAGR.
Okay.
Nigeria is next, much smaller at USD 2.2 million, growing at 7.1%. And the rest of Africa combined makes up the bulk, USD 15.65 million, growing at 6.1%.
And the drivers for growth in Africa?
Similar story again, rising respiratory illnesses and increasing healthcare awareness. The report acknowledges limitations in access, currently in some parts,
Sure.
but suggests the overall trend is positive, pointing towards good long-term potential for the market there.
Okay, so that's a fascinating tour around the globe. North America and Europe lead now, but APAC is where the explosive growth is. Really diverse picture.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, should we shift gears and look at the types of nebulizers? The actual devices?
Yeah, let's do that. The report must have insights into which technologies are winning out.
It does. It highlights mesh nebulizers as potentially dominating the market moving forward.
Mesh nebulizers, what makes them stand out?
Well, their big advantages are portability. They're often battery-operated and really efficient drug delivery.
How does the mesh work?
It uses a vibrating mesh, like a tiny sieve that vibrates very fast to create a really fine mist of the medication. This also means less wasted medicine.
Ah, efficiency and portability. Sounds great. Any
Yeah.
downsides?
The main one mentioned is cost. They can be pricier, which might affect how quickly everyone adopts them.
Right. Price sensitivity is always a factor. What about other types?
Ultrasonic nebulizers are flagged as the fastest growing segment.
Okay, fastest growing segment. Why is that?
They're very quiet,
Mhm.
which is a big plus, especially for kids or elderly patients. And they produce really fine aerosol particles.
How do they work? Ultrasound.
Yeah, they use high-frequency sound waves to vibrate the liquid medicine into that fine mist.
Quieter, finer particles. Sounds good for certain patients. Are they also pricey?
They tend to be more expensive than the older pneumatic types, yeah. That's mentioned as a factor.
Interesting. Now, the report also mentioned pneumatic nebulizers, but in a slightly different way.
Right. It called them the fastest growing category within the broader industry. It's a subtle distinction.
So ultrasonic is the fastest segment, but pneumatic is the fastest category. What does that imply?
It suggests that while the newer tech, like ultrasonic, is growing rapidly, the traditional pneumatic nebulizers, the ones using compressed air, are still seeing very healthy growth within their own established space.
Maybe because they're reliable, maybe lower cost?
Exactly. Could be cost, could be familiarity, reliability. They still have a large user base, and that base is also growing. It's not like they're disappearing.
Got it. So a mix of advanced tech gaining ground, but the traditional workhorse still growing strong. Okay, who's actually using these devices? What about end users?
The report breaks that down too. Currently, clinics hold the largest market share.
Clinics. Why them specifically?
They often act as that sort of bridge between home care and hospital care for chronic respiratory conditions. Nebulizers are just essential tools in that clinical setting.
Okay. But is that where the growth is, or is it shifting?
It's definitely shifting. The home healthcare segment is pegged as experiencing rapid expansion.
Ah, back to the home care trend.
Absolutely. People want to manage treatments at home. The technology, especially portable nebulizers, makes it easier. Plus, convenience and often cost savings for long-term management.
That makes total sense. Are there any, challenges with that shift to home care?
Well, one potential challenge is always ensuring patients use the devices correctly and stick to their treatment plan without that direct supervision you get in a clinic. Education is key.
Right.
But the upsides are huge patient comfort, lower overall healthcare costs, possibly freeing up clinic or hospital resources.
Yeah, it seems like a major trend across healthcare, not just nebulizers.
Okay, stepping back again. What are the big picture forces shaping this whole market, the drivers and restraints?
Okay, key drivers mentioned. Firstly, just growing awareness. People are more aware of respiratory health, the importance of getting diagnosed early, and sticking to treatment.
So better health literacy driving demand.
Exactly. Secondly, and less positively, rising air pollution globally.
We touched on that with APAC. Yeah, it's a global issue contributing directly to more respiratory problems, unfortunately driving demand for nebulizers.
A real double-edged sword there. Any other drivers?
Just the overall increasing prevalence of respiratory diseases themselves, asthma, COPD, etc. That remains a fundamental driver.
Okay. On the flip side, what's holding the market back, if anything? Any restraints?
Two main ones are highlighted. First, the cost, particularly of the advanced mesh and ultrasonic models we talked about.
Right, the accessibility issue.
Exactly. That can limit uptake, especially in certain regions or for people without good insurance or resources.
And the second restraint.
The availability of alternatives. Inhalers, MDIs, DPIs. For some patients or conditions, an inhaler might be preferred or seen as easier to use, which can limit nebulizer adoption in some cases.
Okay, so cost and competition from other delivery methods. What about trends? Looking ahead, what's shaping the future here?
Two big trends stand out in the report. First, a growing focus on environmental sustainability in healthcare.
Ah, the eco-friendly angle again.
Yeah. So expect maybe more demand for energy-efficient devices, sustainable materials, designs that minimize plastic waste from consumables, that sort of thing.
Makes sense. Sustainability is everywhere now. What's the second trend?
It's that increasing demand for home healthcare devices, which we've already discussed quite a bit.
Right, the home care boom.
Yeah, that's likely to keep pushing innovation towards portability, ease of use, and maybe even connectivity.
Connectivity, like smart nebulizers?
Potentially, yeah. Devices that could track usage, maybe remind patients, or even send data to their doctor remotely. That seems like a logical next step.
That could be really impactful for managing chronic conditions. Okay, so we have the drivers, restraints, trends. What about the companies involved? Who are the big players?
They're Report describes the market as highly competitive. You've got global giants and strong regional players all mixed in.
Okay. Does it name names?
It specifically calls out PRI, Pharma GmbH, Rosmax International Ltd, SunMed, and Vectura Group Plic as key dominating companies.
PRI, Rosmax, SunMed, Vectura. What makes them dominant?
Usually it's a combination of things. Broad product lines covering different needs, strong global or regional distribution networks, and a consistent track record of innovation, bringing out new tech.
And the report mentions some recent product launches as examples.
It does, yeah. Gives a nice concrete feel. For instance, Omron Healthcare launched a new mesh nebulizer, the NEU 100, in the U.S. back in March 2023.
Okay, Amran, what was special about it?
Described as compact, very portable, using that mesh tech for a fine mist. Ticks all the boxes for current trends, right?
Yeah, portability, mesh tech, fits the pattern. Anyone else?
Philips Respironics brought out a new one in Europe in April 2023, the InnoSpire Go nebulizer.
InnoSpire Go and its features.
Also highlighted as lightweight, portable, and specifically mentions a rechargeable battery.
Ah, the rechargeable battery, another nod to convenience and use outside the home.
Exactly. No need to be plugged in. These examples really show companies responding directly to that demand for user-friendly portable devices.
It really brings it to life. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground regions, tech, users, market forces, companies. Let's try and summarize the key takeaways for everyone listening.
Sure. So first off, this market is growing significantly, heading towards that USD 2.1 billion mark by 2033. Big potential.
Right, growth is strong overall.
Second, huge regional differences. North America and Europe are the biggest markets now, but Asia Pacific is growing the fastest by far. That's a key dynamic.
Definitely. The APAC growth is maybe the biggest story here.
Third, technology is shifting. Mesh and ultrasonic nebulizers are gaining ground due to portability, efficiency, quietness, even though cost is a factor.
But the older pneumatic tech is still growing too.
Exactly. Fourth, the end-user landscape is moving toward home healthcare. Convenience, cost, patient preference are driving that.
A major trend impacting device design and demand.
And finally, it's a competitive space. Key players are innovating constantly, launching new products like those examples from Omron and Philips.
Great summary. It really captures the key dynamics. And thinking about that shift to home care, the portability, the potential connectivity, it does make you wonder, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, how might future innovations in these devices really empower individuals even more to truly manage their respiratory health proactively, maybe even outside traditional healthcare settings?
That's a really interesting thought. Like, what happens when the technology gets even smaller, smarter, more integrated into daily life?
Exactly. And what could that mean for healthcare systems overall? More self-management, maybe different ways of interacting with doctors.
Yeah, the convergence of that personal tech and patient empowerment. It's definitely something to think about, especially in such a vital health area.
Absolutely. Lots to ponder there. We hope this deep dive sparks some thoughts for you, our listeners, and maybe encourages you to explore areas that caught your interest.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for joining us for this exploration of the global nebulizers market.